Hi boys and girls, welcome back. I've got an active little tarantula here walking around with me. Hopefully she's going to stay still. If you remember correctly, Charlotte is a rose Chilean tarantula. So the back of her is very iridescent and sparkly, kind of like a pink, but you already knew that. So we left off with chapter 3 and we're going to pick up today with chapter 4. And remember, I'm going to do 4, 5, and 6 today. Since they're so tiny and so short. I hope you're enjoying it. It is one that I do love. It kind of tugs at my heart a little bit. Maybe it is yours as well. Maybe you can relate to it a little bit with some of the experiences that Gregory's having a little bit. Maybe you've moved before. Maybe you've known somebody that's moved before. Maybe you've had to have a family member live with you, especially with the coronavirus going on right now. Maybe you have someone staying with you even right now. So with that, let's get to chapter 4. The burned building. In room 3 there was a girl named Ivy. She was small with long black hair and she was very shy. When she talked, it wasn't much more than a whisper. There was something wonderful about her though, and Gregory wasn't sure what it was, but it was there in her face and the way she held her head. It was there in the pictures that she made. 3 times a week they had art class in room 3. Wouldn't that be amazing? Once Gregory said to Ivy, "Your pictures are good." She looked at a picture that he had just made. It was of a castle. He didn't like it much. He had wanted to put a flag on top, but he had made the castle way too big, so there was no room for the flag. Ivy said nothing at all, but she touched the picture. He wasn't sure whether she liked it or not. Since his first day, things hadn't gone very well for him at his new school. He hoped they would be better, but after a week, they were still about the same. He thought Miss Perry liked him. He didn't know about the others, though. Things weren't going so well at home, either. Uncle Max was always there. He was always watching television or going plink, plink, plink on the guitar, or sleeping in their room. It was more his room than Gregory's, but now Gregory didn't mind so much. He had a place of his own. Every day after school, he went out to the burned building. "Can't you find somewhere else to play?" asked Mother. "You'll get all dirty out there." Here's a picture of Ivy and Gregory. Take a look at her in her picture. You can see her long black hair. And if you take a look at her face, she does look very quiet and very shy. And when I think of Gregory, I think of him as being very quiet and very shy, like maybe they would get along pretty well. "I'm cleaning it up," he said. When he swept the floor, he found little pieces of something white. He showed one of them to his mother. "It looks like chalk," he said. "It is chalk," she said. A few days later, she told him, "I found out about that burned building. The woman next door to me said that it used to be a chalk factory. A man made chalk and tried to sell it to schools, but he didn't do very well, and the place caught fire and burned, and the man just went away and left it." Gregory kept sweeping up more chalk, and one day he found 2 wooden boxes under a pile of bricks. They were packed with sticks of chalk. The boxes were burned and broken, and some of the chalk was burned and broken too, but some of it was clean and white. The walls of the burned building were black from the fire. He tried making chalk pictures on them. He made a ship and an alligator. Mother came to the gate and called him to dinner. Here he is cleaning up in the burned building. Sweeping and pushing stuff out of the way. He's got his little overalls on. "Do you want to see what I made?" he said. Some other time, she said. "Your dinner's getting cold." As a mom, wouldn't you go out and see what he made? Chapter 5 is called A Party. Gregory's second week in the new school began with a party. It was for Ivy. Gregory asked the teacher, "Is this her birthday?" "Oh, I forgot to tell you," said Miss Perry. "You weren't here last month, so you don't know what happened." There had been an art show at school, she told him. The whole school took part. There were more than 500 pictures in the show. "And who do you think won the grand prize?" she asked. "Ivy," he said. "Yes, Ivy," said Miss Perry. "She won the blue ribbon. The art teacher and I wanted her to have a special prize. We got it yesterday, and we're giving it to her today. That's what the party's about." The prize was on the teacher's desk, and the package was wrapped in gold paper. The art teacher, Miss Cartwright, came in. She made a speech about the art show, and she called Ivy up to the front of the room. "All the school is proud of you," she said, and she gave Ivy the package. Ivy held it in her hands, and then she said a strange thing. maybe this isn't for me." "What do you mean?" asked Miss Cartwright. "I mean," Abby said in her whispering voice, "there could be somebody better." "We think you're the best," said Miss Cartwright. Abby took the package to her seat. "Aren't you going to see what it is?" asked Miss Perry. Slowly, Ivy took off the gold paper. There was something inside that looked like a big book, but it wasn't a book. It was a leather case. Ivy opened it. She sat very still. The other boys and girls were trying to see what was in the leather case. "Do you want to pass it around?" asked Miss Cartwright. Ivy passed the case around, and when it came to Gregory, he saw inside that there were paints and brushes. There were pens and pencils. There was almost everything an artist could want, he thought. There's his art picture case. That evening he told his mother about the party. "That must have been fun," she said. "Do you like school?" "It's all right," he said. "Have you made any friends?" "Well, no," he said. "There is this Vance in my room. He doesn't like me much. He has a lot of friends, and I don't think they like me much either." Here's a picture of his mom and him talking. "It takes a while to get used to a new school," she said. "Don't worry about it." "I don't," he said. But he did worry sometimes. He didn't seem to belong in this new school, and he wondered if he ever would. Chapter 6. This is our last chapter already. Mr. Hiller came to room 3. He was a friend of Miss Perry's. "Mr. Hiller works in a nursery," she said. "Who knows what a nursery is?" One of the girls spoke up. "It's a room for a baby." "That is one kind," said Miss Perry. "Mr. Hiller, though, works in another kind. He works in a plant nursery. He sells plants and seeds, and he is here to tell us a little bit about him. Maybe you've been to a nursery before. I know that Ella went flower shopping a little bit ago and picked up some flowers at a nursery." Mr. Hiller talked about gardens, and as he talked, he drew pictures of them on the blackboard. He drew a bunch of he drew a bunch of lettuce with curly leaves. He drew a big head of round lettuce. "You can grow both kinds," he said. He talked about radishes. "You can grow the ones that are round and red," he said, "or you can grow the ones that are long and white." And he drew a picture of each kind. He talked about flowers, and he drew a sweet pea vine on a pole. "Next week," he said, "I'll bring some plants and seeds to school. There will be some for each of you if you want to. You can have your own garden." That evening, Gregory told his mother about Mr. Hiller. "I'm going to have a garden," he said. "Gregory, I don't think you can," she said. "Why not?" he asked. "There's no place for one," she said. He looked outside. There was concrete all around the house, and he looked in the burned building. The floor there was concrete, too. Here's Mr. Hiller drawing a picture of the lettuce, or the different kinds of lettuce. Mother was right. He had no place for a garden. He had wanted to plant all the things that Mr. Hiller had drawn on the blackboard. The curly lettuce was what he liked the best. He took a piece of chalk and drew a bunch on the wall. It was not very good. He drew another one. That one was better. He drew more bunches of curly lettuce, and he drew them in a long row. They look good in a long row. Here's his curly lettuce. That was Friday. On Monday, Mr. Hiller came back to school. He brought plants and seeds, and the girls and boys chose what they wanted. Ivy chose sweet pea seeds. Gregory stayed in his seat. Miss Perry asked him, "Don't you want any?" "No, thank you," he said. "I already have a garden." "What do you think he's talking about?" "I already have a garden." "He doesn't have one that I know of. There's nowhere to plant one. Everything was concrete. Where do you think his garden might be?" He wouldn't be not telling the truth, right? Maybe? That was our last chapter for the day. I'll see you again tomorrow with our last 3 chapters. I told you this book was fast. I hope we learn a little bit more about Ivy and a little bit more about Gregory. I'll see you then. I miss you. Bye.